Astrology, airing live every Wednesday. I have with me Avilone Bailey. She is an emotional relief catalyst. And we're going to talk about healing today, meditation, how you can tap into your inner guidance. We're also going to talk about that full moon going on right now. So thank you for coming, Avalon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here, and I am stepping into my path as emotional relief catalyst. Since I was a young child, I have been connected to the spiritual aspect of who I am and have had the privilege of developing a close relationship with my inner guidance. I knew at the age of 7 that I could see things that other people didn't. One day I was getting out of the car with my mom, and we were walking to the front door, and I finally decided to ask her, what is that white around the trees and the bushes? And she looked and she said, well, there isn't any. And I looked and I said, yeah, it's right there. And she didn't see it, so she couldn't tell me what it was.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I realized that I might be living my life and have questions that maybe people couldn't answer. When I was in 2nd grade, we had spelling bees. And we would stand up in the front of the room. And when I was given my word to spell, I could see it in my inner vision. And so I would just spell it. And I would be the last one standing. I never really realized other people didn't have that. In 3rd grade, I was at home on a weekend reading a mystery novel for girls. And
I love doing that too, actually.
Yeah, it was fun. And so I decided to go out and play. I started to close the book. And something said, how many pages do you have left? And so I looked, and let's say there were 100 pages in the book, and I'm on page 90, so I said, well, 90 from 100, I have 10 pages left. And then something said, well, count the pages. So I counted the pages, and I counted 11. I thought, now how could that be? So I did the math again, and then I counted them again, and I still got 11. And I looked at it, and I thought, oh, you have to count the page you're on. Okay, close the book, went out and play. Later that week, on a test, a bonus question was that exact scenario. You're reading a book.
Oh my God.
It has so many pages, you're on page such and such, how many do you have left to read? And I so wanted to just subtract, but see, I had been shown the answer.
Yeah.
And so I subtracted, added 1, turned the test in. When she gave the test back, she told the class that only 1 student had answered the bonus question correctly. And so when class ended, my classmates came up to me and said, well, how did you know that? And I just kind of held my head down and said, I don't know, I just knew. And it was the inner guidance. It was there all the time. And I grew up in a large family. I have a lot of siblings. And even with that, I spent a lot of time by myself. So it was in spending time by myself that was quiet that I was able to hear that inner guidance. Because the inner guidance speaks very softly.
Okay.
And when there's a lot of noise around and distractions, it's very easy to miss it and to think it's not even there. So even though at the time it didn't feel like it was a blessing, it really was. And things like that continued through my life. Sometimes I would listen to my guidance and sometimes not. When I don't listen to it, the road gets bumpy. I have learned that. But when I was pregnant as a young mother, I was working as a cashier. And I was standing at the register, there was nothing going on, and I was just doodling. And this was before the time of ultrasound. That's how long ago it was.
Oh, okay.
So there was a time when you didn't know the gender of the baby.
Wow.
And so I was standing there doodling, and the baby's name came right through to me. And I wrote it down, and I thought, well, that's a nice name. And it also told me the gender. So when she was born, I named her Jennifer Elizabeth and told her, you pick the name, so if you don't like it, don't blame me. But I just thought that was normal. I never even related that story as to how I got it, because that's just how things happened. There was a time I was at my father's funeral, and I was walking from one building to the next, and I was all by myself, and I had no particular thought in my mind. And my inner guidance said, you should move to Florida.
Really?
And I said, oh, no, I'm not moving to Florida. And the voice, the inner guidance said, if you move to Florida, it would be good. And I said, I'm not moving to Florida. I hate Florida. And so that year, my car was totaled by no fault of my own. And I had surgery on both kidneys. And then I moved to Florida, and then it was good.
Wow.
So that was a big lesson for me, that my inner guidance, all of us, our inner guidance will always have your good in mind.
Your intuition, you have to listen to it. Never,
Yes.
people always second guess it. And I tell people, if something is telling you to do something or not to do something, listen to it. There's a reason for it.
There is. Even though we may not see it, it may not make any sense to us. When I was traveling from Virginia to here, finally moving, I decided to take 3 days to do it, not get in anyone's rush hour traffic. And so on the third day, the final day of driving, I had stayed with a relative. And when we got up in the morning, I said, I can leave any time. I just don't want to be in traffic. So I left around 9:30. She walked me to my car. And as I got in, I reached for the ignition. And all of a sudden, this energy enveloped both of my arms. And my mind immediately said, oh, I'm paralyzed. But that's not the truth. That's just how my mind interpreted it. And so I honored that, and I said, something's wrong. And I went back in, laid down for a few minutes, and I asked my guidance, what was that about? And it said, an 18-wheeler, you wouldn't have stood a chance. So the guidance is always there. I could have continued to go. That was my choice. But to reach the inner guidance, for me anyway, was to have quietness on a regular basis. And as I reached adulthood, I found that meditation helped a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for people out there that are trying to get in touch with their inner guidance, they're spirit guides. It's pretty much, I think, the same in a way. It's just how someone interprets it. So you're saying that it's easier for people just to be in silence, just to be alone somewhere and just to clear your thoughts.
Yes.
And that's how someone can get in touch with their inner guidance?
Yes, it can be very simple, really. It is setting the intention that I'm going to be at peace, be in a quiet space. Some people meditate with music, which is fantastic, or some people meditate with guided imagery or whatever. I like to listen to Tibetan bowls when I meditate, but meditation can be as short as a few minutes to as long as you want. But setting the intention as to what you want to gain from the meditation, many people will use it for visualization, for things they want to manifest. But for me, it was going within and wanting to really know the essence of who I truly am, and to find that small voice and learn how to listen to it and hear it.
Yes, and I feel like a lot of people have that ability, and a lot of people will just say, oh no, I can't do it, I can't sit down for an hour and meditate. It doesn't take, you can meditate for 10 minutes.
That's right.
Just 10 minutes, and if you try to do this every day, I think you can build up to it. You can meditate longer and longer, but all you need is 10. Just sit in your car on your lunch break. Wouldn't that count as meditation?
Absolutely. I've done that many times. I was getting an MRI, I think, one time, that circular thing where you lay on the table and they slide you in and you feel very...
Oh, claustrophobic?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I thought, how am I going to get through this? Because I could feel my heart beating really fast. And so I closed my eyes, kept them closed. And some people can meditate through chanting or singing or prayer. And so I said a prayer over and over and over and over. And by the time the scan or whatever it was done, I was in such an altered state that the healthcare practitioner kind of like, are you there? Are you with me? Because the ability to go within, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. And your body will respond to it, your energy field will respond to it. Your life will really change. You almost become more in alignment with who you truly are.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been trying to do that every day, but sometimes it can't be every day, but it is true. My focus is a lot better. I don't get as angry if something, like I'm stuck in traffic. I'm much more relaxed. I'm not sitting there going, oh my God, I'm never gonna get anywhere because I'm in such a rush. So I think that meditation just can help you control your emotions too, because you have a better grasp on them. You can feel them.
Yes, and you discover that inner core of calm and peace. That's truly who we are. And so the mind can get very distracted and busy with things, and we do have to live life. So things are going to happen, but if we can return and reset ourselves on a regular basis or as often as we need to, it will help us deal with life as it shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said that you were a nurse, so you were in the health field for quite some time. So what made you do that transition? Or I know you've always been able to see things and feel things that other people couldn't as a child, but as a nurse, is there something that happened during that time that made you make that transition into a healer?
I knew from a young child that I would be a nurse.
Oh.
It was never a question. My mom told me, she remembers me saying that. So that was always going to be my path. But I also was so interested in the metaphysical. I've been on the metaphysical path longer than I was a nurse. So that has just been a natural part of who I am. So I did the nursing to fulfill my desire to help people in a traditional way. And at the same time, I pursued my metaphysical path as well. I explored auras and psychometry. And
What's psychometry?
psychometry is where you take an object and you hold it in your hand. Well, this is my technique. Hold it in your hand, and you just feel the energy of it, and it will start to communicate to you. I'll give you an example when I first did it. We were sitting in a circle. Everybody brought things, put it in a bag, and we passed it around and reached in, and I pulled out a ring, a gold band. And so I just held it in my hand. The first thing I felt was this immense love. And I just wanted to stay there. It was so beautiful. And then I could smell a smell. And surprisingly, it's hard to describe smells.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it came around for me to share what I got from it, I talked about the love. And then I said I smelled a smell, and it smelled like an old shoe. And the person whose ring it was, identified who they were. And they said they don't know what the old shoe smell was about. But someone else in the group who had been to that person's home said, "Your home has a musty smell."
Oh my God.
So, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's psychometry.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Interesting. I've heard about it, but I've never met anyone who actually did it before. So that's really interesting to see. So I'd like you to maybe describe your technique. What makes you a little different from other healers out there? What do you do specifically?
Well, after many years of exploring the world of energy and having earned many energy practitioner certifications, I really became adept at perceiving energies. And in about 2012, I was working with someone, and as they were talking about their issue, all of a sudden I could see the energy in their energy field. And I was like, oh. And so I just cleared it. And it took care of the issue. So this modality can be done in person, over the phone, or over the internet, because as we all know, energy is not bound by the physical.
Right.
And I use my inner vision a lot too. Even if I was sitting here with you, I might close my eyes and I'm shown many things, and I receive information. So I'm able to remove stuck or stored energies or emotions that are inhibiting or interfering with the person's ability to live a healthy and fulfilling life. I'll give you an example. I worked with a woman who was in her 40s. She was a little bit overweight. She was diabetic, and she could not stop eating fast food. Even when she wasn't hungry, she would go through the fast food line. And her husband was getting on her case because her health was being affected. So for her, she came to see me, and as she was talking about this, I saw the energy in her energy field connected to that behavior and cleared it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw her 2 weeks later at a social setting, she was glowing, but I asked her, how is the fast food eating? And she goes, oh, I haven't had any. I haven't even thought about it. I don't miss it.
Wow.
And so it's very quick. The results are immediate. The benefits become evident very quickly, and they continue with time.
So what makes your technique a little different? Because I know you told me that you don't do hypnosis. So
No.
people, I know a lot of people who are afraid of hypnosis, or they don't want to go through that, or people don't want to regress or think of these traumatizing emotions or memories. So what you do is different.
Very different. First of all, you don't relive anything. And the energies that come flowing through are very loving, calm, and healing. And so many people, at the end of the session, they are uplifted, they are empowered, they feel lighter, they're just released from this heaviness that maybe they knew was there and maybe they didn't. Sometimes we start here and we end up over there. Someone may come in for a particular issue, and as we go into the energies, we may end up with a childhood experience that they had forgotten or didn't remember or buried. But again, it's a very loving experience, and the person is aware the whole time.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it's nice to know that everyone's constantly in a warm, uplifted mood. It's so important because some people do have a lot of traumatic memories and traumatic emotions. How far can someone's trauma go? How far can you go?
It's as far as the energies want to take me, and yeah. I just recently realized that it can go to the womb. I'll just go with that one. It can go to the womb. One woman wanted her husband to come and see me because he had frequent angry outbursts, and she really loved him. So they had been married over 25 years, but it was difficult for her to live with this. So she brought him to see me. I didn't even know his name. I didn't know anything about him other than as a child he was abused, and he had angry outbursts all his life. So he sat in his chair, and since I didn't even know his name, I just said, well, tell me about yourself. And so he started talking. And as he started talking, I just closed my eyes. And the energies were just flowing, and they were so loving and so peaceful. Mm-hmm. And so in my inner vision, the energies took me, it's like a zip line, and it took me back to the present day, to his childhood, to him as an infant, to him in the womb. And the energies were healing all of that pain, all of that emotional pain. And the energies told me that he is now receiving that which he was never given. And it showed me in a vision like holding a baby in your arms and rocking it and singing it a very loving lullaby. And when I tuned into the present, he was very quiet. So we addressed a few other things, believe it or not just that. And when the session finished, I took him to where his wife was. And when I do a session in person, I always give the person a hug. And I said, oh, give me a hug. So he hugged me. And when his wife called me the next day, she said, I saw my husband hug you. She said, I was very impressed.
Oh, wow.
Because that meant something happened. And I spoke with her a week later as well, and she said he hadn't had any angry outbursts. She was tiptoeing around because she didn't want to break the spell, so to speak. But you see, he had been healed. Mm-hmm. I had one lady who is in her 60s, and she had been sexually abused at the age of 3 by her older brother, and she was blamed for it. And so she carried this around for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so we went in there, and we went into those energies and healed it. And it freed that little girl to be who she really was. This little girl had been burdened by the guilt and mm-hmm. the pain of that, but the little girl was now free. And so the woman, I spoke with her a week later, and she said she had been walking on air. Mm-hmm. She felt very joyful, and she said, I've been freed from an emotional prison.
Oh, wow.
So it's so transformative,
mm-hmm.
and I honor people because they show up for themselves.
That's right. That's right. And I feel like a lot of people can do that for themselves. Sometimes people just aren't comfortable with those feelings. They block it out. They think that if they ignore it, forget it, distract themselves with something else, that pain will go away. But that pain never goes away. Mm-hmm. That emotional trauma, that pain is there for you for the rest of your life, and it's going to get projected. If you don't do something about it, you'll project it onto somebody else. You can project it onto your children, your work, because you're not aware of it. And if you take the time to get to know yourself, to meditate, to go to get healing, however you do it, mm-hmm. your way or so, it's going to free you from that. And I can't tell people enough that inner work is really important. It starts with you, not with other people. No one's going to make you happy. You're going to make yourself happy.
That's right.
And I think what you do is such a beautiful thing, a wonderful thing. And I hope that I can get the message out there for people.
Yeah.
And, I'll have your information and everything at the end of the show, underneath the video and whatnot, so people can definitely contact you. So, so how do emotions accumulate throughout life, like especially in the womb? Because I know you were talking about that. So is it the pregnancy that's traumatizing, or is it the birth? How does
For
someone...
him in particular, it's such an unfortunate story, but the good news is he was those emotions were healed within him. But his mother was abused during the pregnancy by the father.
Oh, I see.
And so he was affected by that.
Okay.
It was a rough situation.
Yeah.
But as we grow up, sometimes we misinterpret something, and we store it as something that's a negative. And sometimes things are said that parents don't really realize, like, why can't you be more like your brother?
Yeah.
It may not be meaningful for the parent to say that, but for the child, what does that say? It's like, well, I'm not good
You're
enough.
not good enough.
And so we just store it over here. And then someone says something, you go, oh, I'll just deal with it later, and so you store it over here. And then something else comes up and it's hurtful, and you go, oh, well, whatever, and you store it over here. And so it can manifest physically. Back pain. I had one lady in Arizona. She had a very stressful job, and it was a 24/7 job. She was a caregiver, a live-in. And so she called me, and she was having pain along her back and her shoulders, and I could see it. And so I was able to clear it. And it was based on stress, and within a minute it was gone.
Wow.
But it was stress-related and anxiety. So these emotions can really affect our body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I see that a lot in people. People with migraines constantly. Sometimes people just get sick all the time. Their immune system is so low, and I think a lot of repression and suppression of these emotions, it's emotional baggage, can cause those physical ailments, like you said.
Yeah, well, a couple of things here. I think that the whole goal of this modality, which, by the way, I'm the founder of it. No one taught this to me. It was a gift that showed up, and I'm so honored, and I love the energies that flow through. So when I have an opportunity to work with someone, I'm thrilled. But I think that part of the issue is when we have these emotions, they're unloving, and it prevents us from really allowing ourselves or giving ourselves permission to love ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we don't love ourselves, we, on some level, also say to someone else, I'm not really lovable.
That's right.
And so if we can start with ourselves and be okay with healing ourselves, then we learn to love ourselves, allow ourselves to love ourselves, and then we give permission for other people to love us. And the beautiful thing is, if we really are in a space where we love ourselves without judgment, we don't need the love from anybody else. If someone wants to love us, that's like icing on the cake, but it's not a need. It's a gift that they give us, and we receive it.
Right.
But we don't require them to love us, because we are filling our own self with our self-love. And when I say self-love, I mean the capital S. I see the small s as like the little self, and the capital S as the true essence, our true self, our higher self, maybe some people would say.
Right.
So it's learning to truly love ourselves, regardless of all that we've picked up along our life.
Exactly. Yeah, especially no one's perfect, and people should learn to love that about them. No one's perfect, but that's what makes you you. And you need to love that about yourself. And a lot of people are very hard on themselves. A lot of people I always hear people, I'm not good enough, I'll never be like that, I'll never get the job, what should I even bother?
Yes, and see, that's self-sabotage. Those are self-sabotaging thoughts. And those can be worked on as well. We have belief patterns, we have behavior patterns, all that can be worked on. And there's something I was going to say. No, it'll come back to me.
Yeah, no worries.
Shoot.
But it's okay, it'll come up. But it is self-sabotaging. I think people are their own worst enemy.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Thank you for who are you with 24/7?
Yourself.
You are with you 24/7. So I finally came to the point where I thought, well, if I'm with me 24/7, I may as well be my own best friend. Why not?
Yeah, you have to enjoy
You
your
may
own
as well
company.
be a gift to yourself.
Yeah.
And it's really a very healthy thing. We're taught not to think well or highly of ourselves, but it's just accepting. It's like you said, no one is perfect. And so if I do something wrong, instead of saying, oh, you're stupid, or why'd you do that? It's just like, hey, don't worry about it. Avalon, don't worry about it. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell yourself it's okay and move on.
Yeah, that's what people need to remind themselves of. It's hard, but I've gotten better at it with age, and you try to focus on the things you're good at. But you shouldn't stop trying new things because you don't want to be embarrassed or make a fool out of yourself and be like, oh, I'm bad at it. I don't even, just who cares? At least you tried,
Yes.
And I think that people can learn more about themselves if they try new things.
Mm-hmm. You have to be true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do what's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we put other people first. And for me, that doesn't work out well. If I am doing something for someone else and it's not for my good, it doesn't work for me. Also, some people will do things from fear, and I've done that myself, and that doesn't work out well. I've made decisions based on fear, and it's not for my good. And so it's important, going back to meditation, to be able to tune in and hear that inner voice so that you are on the path that is best for you. And make those affirmations. I'm so grateful that I'm being guided to be on the path that is right for me, good for me, best for me, whatever your wording is. And be aware that your thoughts and your words carry energy. And not only that, but when you bathe or you're in the shower, water carries energy. So when you're in the shower, be thinking some really good thoughts. Set your intentions. I love experiencing abundance. I love having success fill my life. I love having people who love and support me and are loyal to me in my life. If you say those things in the shower, your life is going to really pick up.
So people can meditate in the shower.
They can set their intentions and let the water carry the energy out for them. Yes, they can meditate.
Yeah, that's beautiful. No one really, who thinks about that? Before you go to work, you can sit in the shower for 10, 15 minutes and just be grateful.
Yes.
Set your intentions.
Pay attention to your thoughts. Pay attention to everything you're taking in. You have 5 senses. So what are you looking at? Are you looking at the news? Is that making you feel good?
You know what's interesting you say that? Growing up, my mom loved to watch the news in the morning, and I hated it. I didn't hate it because I wanted to be a reporter, but I don't know, it always gave me a weird start to the day. I like all the bad news and this. Who wants to start the day with bad news like that? News is never good news. When do you turn on the news in the morning and be like, oh yeah, everyone's just happy, There's always an accident, traffic, there's stress. And I don't know, at a certain point, like a couple years ago, I just said I cannot stand the news. And I haven't watched the news probably in, I would say like 2 years, 3 years. I hate the news.
One of the things the news does, because I took care of my mom for a while and she had the TV on all the time, the news, is I realized that, like you said, it's very negative. For me, it made me feel powerless. So you hear all these things and you go, well, what can I do?
Right.
And so it robs a person's power. And I unplugged my TV, my cable box, everything well over a year ago. I go on the internet and I watch things that I choose to watch. So like I was saying, we have 5 senses. So what are we taking in? What are you watching? What are you looking at? Are you looking at a scary movie, or are you looking at nature that's so beautiful and nourishing and nurturing? What are you eating?
Yeah.
Are you eating food that's healthy for you? What are you listening to? Are you listening to music that causes discord in your energy field? Or are you listening to music that resonates with you in a very positive way? Who are you around? What do your friends say? What do your people that you hang out with, or your family, what are you hearing from them? Are they positive? Are they negative? Are they successful? Are they inspiring? All these things can affect you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen people hang around groups who are so negative, and like it's happened to me where I'm in a great mood. I'm like, oh, I just read this great book, or I just had this great conversation. Let me go tell my friends about it. And they're like, oh, that's stupid, or oh, really? And then my good mood just disappears. It's crazy how other people can influence how you feel.
Yes, and see, that's giving them that's giving them power over you. And so one response that just came to me is, you don't know what you're missing. And then you move on your way, still in your happy place.
That's nice. You don't know what you're missing.
You don't know what you're missing. Because a lot of people come from not knowing. They have an opinion without really having any research done or any knowledge of it. It's just, that's the other thing, is we are so used to having an opinion. If you listen to TV, you'll hear things like...
The news especially.
Yeah, who's right or who's wrong, or what do you think? And, which party? All these things, it's either or all the time. And so I was very judgmental. I was raised in a religion that was very judgmental. So, and a lot of us are raised that way. And I thought, how can I step out of being judgmental? Because it's so ingrained. So I started just using a very neutral word. So if someone did something that normally I might put a label on, wasn't that stupid, I started saying, well, isn't that interesting? Or someone wore something that was a little odd, I would just say, well, isn't that interesting how they dress today? And so for me, the word interesting was neutral. And it started to shift me out of being judgmental. It was not easy.
Yeah.
But I was determined.
I do say that, though. Well, that's interesting, because I'm not sure what to think.
That's good.
Yeah.
You don't have so much work to do because you're already in that neutral zone.
Right. And I think more people should just think that way. You don't have to have an opinion. I mean, just accept it. Let things be, And I feel like everyone is always so stressed out, or they feel like they have to be on one side of something. Even with politics and things going on, it's just be you. Like, who cares? You don't need to side with anything. I just feel like you're just giving away your power.
Yes. I mean, the question is, were we born to conform?
Interesting.
And if your answer is yes, then go ahead and conform. But if you feel the answer is no, then...
So when someone comes for a healing, is this something that gets released from people? Like, are they less judgmental? Are they don't carry those preconceived notions any longer?
Well, belief patterns, I'll give you an example of something.
Okay.
I worked with a lady in England, worked over the internet with her, and she was a young mother. And one of the things that she wanted to work on is that when she was growing up, she was ingrained with this saying, and it went something like, don't want too much. If you want too much, you'll just chase it away, so don't want. It was something like that.
Oh, I've had that. Like, if you really want something so badly, you won't get it. Or if you laugh too much, you'll cry. Or some stupid,
Okay, so it was something like that. Okay,
Yeah.
So as she was saying it, I saw the energy in her energy field, and I cleared it to the point where I cleared it. She was still saying it, but because it had cleared, her sentence trailed off. She didn't even finish the belief statement because it had been cleared. And so I talked to her a month later, and she said, I was trying to remember what that belief was. She said, I can't even remember it. It was gone.
Wow.
She also, this particular lady, had headaches for 6 months, and sometimes they would last a couple of days. And she had a headache at the time of the session. So I found the energies connected to the headaches and cleared them. Her headache went away during the session, and when I talked to her a month later, her headaches hadn't returned. So whether it's a belief system, a behavior pattern, or a physical manifestation based on emotion, they can be cleared. It's really amazing what can be done.
Absolutely. And if anybody on Instagram or Facebook Live, anyone has any questions for Avalon, feel free to ask. She'll be here for another half hour or so. And so when you have a client come in, do they have to prepare? Is there something that they have to do before? What steps do they have to take?
They really don't have to do anything. They've already reached the point where they recognize that something needs to change, and they're ready. And so during the session, just be in a quiet place so that you're not interrupted. A session can be up to an hour, and they're pretty receptive, and they feel things most of the time. People feel the energy working with them, and by the time it's finished, they know that something has shifted. Yeah, it's such a beautiful experience. And then, like, I worked with one lady recently. She's in South Florida, so we worked by phone. And her concern was she was eating sugar. She couldn't stop eating sugar. So we went into that, and that was cleared. And the very next day, she was driving to work, and she had a box of cookies sitting next to her in her car. She didn't have any of them. And so she called me a week later. She said she hadn't had any sugar. And so she was just ready to give it up. And she didn't know what was driving that behavior, but I was able to locate it and clear it for her. So it's just very quick, painless, loving, and immediate.
How about addictions? Have people come to you with that, trying to get help?
Yeah, well, the sugar was an addiction. I worked with one lady who her routine was to sit on her couch every evening. She was retired, and she would smoke and she would drink. So I actually went to see her and found the energy connected to the smoking. It was very interesting how that showed up. And
how did it show up?
Well, it's a little bit different. But I could see it in her brain. It was like an energetic netting that had been placed there or grown there. Not really sure. All I know is it was there, and I just lifted it up, just so easy. And I told her, I said, your drive to smoke has been removed. If you choose to smoke, that's up to you. But the energy that was driving that behavior is gone. So yeah, addictions, there's always an energy behind it.
Really?
Well, sure, something's driving it. It could be an emotion that's being, like if you overeat, like the woman who was eating fast food. What she was stuffing down is what happened to her as a child with her brother and her father.
I can see that.
Yeah. And so when we eat or we drink or we do drugs, it doesn't matter. It's not wanting to deal with the driving energy behind it. Could be an experience. It's just an emotion that maybe we're not equipped to deal with it at the time of the experience. Like I said, I've worked with quite a few women lately who were sexually abused. And it's not our fault. Not our fault, but we carry the guilt and the anger. So, yeah.
Oh wow, that's beautiful that you can tap into that. I know addiction is difficult, and if you can help somebody, I think it's the most amazing thing.
Yes, when someone is really ready to let it go, to not want to live like that anymore, they have to reach that point so that when the energies come to work with them and clear it, they're very receptive and embracing the newness that they're given the opportunity to experience.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Love that. And what's so interesting is right now, I'm going to go into a little bit of astrology. Oh, it looks like we have a comment though. So before I get into the astrology, let's see what the comment is. Could be one of my loyal viewers. Is it? Oh, it's okay. Ahakoya, working on how to release anything that's blocking me from moving forward in my transformation to invoke peace and prosperity. How can I clear that energy and realign my chakras?
Okay, moving forward in life, this is one of the biggest things I work with. I worked with a young lady who was in her 20s, and she was working in a job that she just didn't want to be in anymore, but she could not bring herself to leave it.
Okay.
And so I worked with the energy that was interfering with her ability to move forward in her life. And within a week, she gave notice, and as soon as she did that, opportunities showed up for her that were in alignment with her true path. And so as far as moving forward, we can find the energy that's interfering with your ability to move forward and clear it. Chakras, I don't work specifically with chakras, but many times there'll be congested energy in the solar plexus or in the throat, many times in the chest. So I don't work with specific chakras. I go wherever the energies guide me to go. The energies are very loving, very wise, and they know exactly what to do for the person's good and to help serve them in the way that they're looking to be helped.
And you think if someone might take the time to meditate, to really listen to their guides, they might be able to show them where the blocks might be?
Yes, there's a lot of healing that can be done. And so for me, I go within. I go into the heart space because the heart has wisdom and love and peace, and much healing can be done there for the self and for others. So I don't go out, I go in.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my good friends, my best friend, she was just wanting to know exactly how you can clear negative energy for someone on their own. So if they can't get healing at this moment, is there something that someone can do, maybe to like a ritual? You're saying maybe like an intention might help.
Yeah. So look at the self-talk, first of all. What are you saying to yourself? I would start there.
Yeah.
Because we have to be our own best friend. And then I would start with what is it you want? Do you want to feel healthy? Then I am so grateful for vibrant health. I am so grateful that my body is full of good health. And just start with affirmations like that. I'm so grateful that I feel good. I feel energetic. I am so grateful that abundance flows to me. I love receiving abundance. So you just start telling yourself that, and you don't have to feel it at first. When I first started doing some affirmations, it kind of felt like a lie, but it was a whole lot better than feeding myself negative stories. And so I just started doing it. And now when I say a positive affirmation, the feeling just bubbles up, and it's more and more genuine. So it takes effort at first, and then it becomes more natural.
Yeah, with anything. Honestly, like learning to drive a car. I mean, you're not going to be comfortable the first time, but the more you do something, the more natural it becomes. Even affirmations. And I think I have one more comment. Could be from the same person. Yeah. Thank you so much for the clarity. Advice for full moon in Scorpio for Aries, rising, and Aquarius moon. Okay, so I am actually going to get to the full moon that's occurring actually right at this moment.
Yes.
So I know that we were talking about healing and whatnot, and you know, you may not do the astrology version of it, but
I'm sure I'm affected by it, though.
You definitely are. Everybody is, because right now the full moon's in Scorpio. And what does Scorpio represent? Transformation. It's a water sign. Feelings, psychology, your subconscious, power. And it's a very powerful full moon, and it's making an aspect right now. Sun in Taurus is trining Pluto in Capricorn, and that's a very powerful aspect. It's giving a lot of positive energy regarding your power, and it's just emphasizing the Scorpio full moon, but in a positive way. So right now, if someone were to go through a healing session, they would benefit. Yes, it'd be perfect, because right now we should be digging under the surface to bring truth to light. It's best time to dig into your subconscious and find out what motivates us, because that's what Scorpios do. They dig, they can transform. They are the phoenix rising out of the ashes. And right now, depending on where the full moon falls in your chart, it can affect you. For an Aries, since it's Scorpio, you know, I'm not going to say that. I think it's going to affect water signs more, and it's going to affect Taurus, because it's opposing you. So your sun sign is Taurus. It's in Scorpio, so it's opposing. So you are feeling this modality. You are feeling this full moon. And so I think that a lot of Scorpios, Cancers, Pisces, Taurus, I think they're all feeling it. And it's a positive thing. It's intense. I mean, I've been feeling intense the last couple of days.
Yes.
And it's going to give people a chance to reclaim their power, I think. And it's going to give people a chance to dig deep, to be passionate, to find these emotions. And this trine with Taurus to Pluto, the sun to Pluto, it encourages us to connect with the power that resides, again, in our own resources. So we need to work with our own resources in sustainable ways, in ways that help others realize and utilize their own. So it's tangible. What is Sun in Taurus? You have Sun in Taurus. Your Taurus is the sign of practicality, sensuality, tangible. So this aspect is only emphasizing the full moon. So if we want to do healing work, if we want to heal, if we want to do this aspect is going to allow us. So right now is the time to book a healing, meditate, look within.
Yes. Make yourself your priority, your higher self.
Yes,
the truth
absolutely.
of who you are.
Yeah. And sometimes we just have to sit and reflect and just think about everything that's gone on in our lives. And I really, truly believe this full moon is really doing it for a lot of people. And Pluto in the sun. It's just powerful. And if you want to transform your power and make a therapeutic process out of it, it's honestly the best time. It's going to enhance these emotions. So if you feel like you're about to explode, or there's just so much intensity going on in your life, it's this full moon. And like you were saying, people are going to try to block it out. People are going to try to avoid this feeling because it's uncomfortable. People don't want to think about their past hurts. People don't want to think about feelings. But now is the time to really tap into that. And, yeah.
Right, and you may just recognize a behavior or a feeling that you have and not really know the source of it. So you don't have to figure out where is this fast food eating coming from.
Right.
You know, that came up during the session. So if there's something about your life, pain, I worked with one man who had had chronic back pain for 15 years. And his girlfriend wanted him to come see me, so he did. And he didn't have any expectations because he had been there, done that through many healers. And so we had the session, and he came back a week later, and he said, I don't know what you did, but I don't have my back pain anymore.
Wow.
So when you are experiencing something physical, and it's based on an emotion that you may or may not recognize, it can be dealt with in a very gentle and loving way, and the results are immediate.
Yeah, they definitely are. And I'm curious about it too. Now I actually want to try that with you. It sounds great. And I think that this full moon, because full moons represent endings, and I think you can just get rid of all these negative emotions. Now is the perfect time, because the full moon it stays in effect for a couple of days. So I think that right now it's just the perfect time to do this inner work, to let go, to release these negative emotions.
Yes, and confusion. People have gained clarity for their life. I had one person who wanted to deepen her spiritual path, and I thought, well, okay, this is different. Let's do it. And so we had the session, and some unique things showed up for her, and she told me maybe a week later that her meditations had deepened so much from that. And I had one man who was with someone, and they had love for each other, and they felt it was karmic, so we didn't talk about karma or past lives. So their story was that they felt they had had many lives together, and they were meant to be together in this lifetime, but he was kind of feeling a little discontent. So he came to me, and one of the things I saw in my inner vision was that they were locked together with heavy metal locks. And so we worked on that. And then he asked if I could work on his girlfriend as well. And so I always check in, and the answer was no. I could not work on her, but I can certainly work with him. But what the energies did is they allowed a circle of energy to go around them. And I didn't really know what was going to happen, because that was also a new thing. And so I told him, I said, there's a circle of energy around the two of you. And what this is going to do is going to bring truth and clarity to your relationship, however that turns out. And so when I saw him about 2 weeks later, he was moving on.
Wow.
So the truth of their foundation came up, and he realized it was time to move on. That a karmic tie or past lives may not be enough or the right thing to keep you together in this lifetime.
So do you use that in your have you come across that a lot? Have you come across a lot of karmic relationships in your life?
Just a few times. Just a few times.
And you were able to recognize that?
It was shown to me, yes.
Okay. And how about for yourself personally? Have you been in any karmic relationships?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I was my first significant relationship. I was in high school, and actually we were in a foreign country, and I saw this band playing on the stage in high school, and when I saw the person, it's like my heart just jumped. And it's like, I don't know who he is, but there's something there. And we absolutely were together for a long time. But we were not meant to stay together forever. It was just for a time.
Yeah. No, and I truly believe that. I know we're getting off the topic of astrology, but in karmic relationships, I think that once you finish it, your unfinished business, once it's completed, I think that you part ways, and it's just time to end. Whatever you don't complete in a previous. Do you practice past lives, or do you believe in past?
Yes,
Okay.
I think we've had many, many lives, and I meditated on why he and I were brought together, and I saw it in a meditation, and we had started a life together, and he went wherever he went, traveling, hunting for food, whatever it was, and he never came back. And so it was an incomplete life. And so that's why we came back together in this lifetime. But like you said, it wasn't meant forever.
Yeah.
So I've done past life regressions for myself. One was with a facilitator and one was spontaneous. And the spontaneous one, I was listening to Enya, the music.
Enya, I love Enya.
And it just put me in an altered state. I was by myself, just relaxed on the couch, and it just started. It just happened. And all of the lives that it showed me were very, very sad and depressing. Like I was an orphan, or I was a big oaf that was made fun of. And so there's a whole string of very different lifetimes where it was very depressing. And so when it finished, I just asked my guidance, why did you show me those lives? And then I realized depression had been lifted from my energy field.
Oh.
It was very therapeutic, and it was spontaneous.
Wow, that's amazing. So you can perform these healing practices onto yourself. You can do that for you.
Yes, it just happened.
It just happened.
I was just in a very relaxed state, and it showed up.
Yeah, it's amazing. I believe that. I remember once when I had a relationship end, it just ended, and I've never had that happen before. But it wasn't like we just never talked again. It wasn't ill will against each other. I just knew that it was done, that we completed what we needed to complete.
Yes, it's funny you say that because I was in nursing for 25 years, and I had a great job, been there 6.5 years, had an office, loved what I did, loved the people, and one day in my office I heard, "You're done." And I went like, "What? What do you mean I'm done?" And it just told me that my nursing had finished. I did not prepare for that, but I honored it.
Yeah, it happens. I wish people could understand that, and because when people are more open to that, more receptive to that, I think that they'll be more accepting to relationships. Just it is what it is because of that. Or hey, listen, if you believe in past lives, maybe you'll see the other person again. And I believe that if you have to finish something that hasn't been completed in this life, then you'll do it again. It's not the last time you'll encounter the person, I'm sure. So
yes, and I will say one thing about relationships, because probably we've all ignored red flags.
Yes, a lot of
maybe
people
the
do.
chemistry is so strong, but
or fear, could be fear.
Could be, yeah. But if you see a red flag, from my own experience, I wish I had paid attention to them, and I didn't, and I paid a price for it. So that's your intuition. That's your inner guidance trying to speak loudly.
Yeah.
But we get to choose whether we pay attention or not.
Absolutely. So many of us just ignore it, and I have, but now that I'm opening up to my inner self, just like how you're guiding people to do, I'm more aware of it coming into my life. So I think I have a couple more comments here, and then I'll continue to talk more about some astrology. Oh, hi Keith, hi Gary. I'll see you on Saturday. Oh, okay. Koya, Yoka. Sorry if I'm saying the name wrong, but I will post something on Instagram, or I can direct message you with her information. I'll also have it on my Facebook, but I'll send you a message. And yes, these mics are not real. We're just random. They're just picking up. The studio's just picking up the sound like from the walls. These mics are they're toys for sure. Anyway, but yeah, so if someone wants to book a healing session with you, or in general, I do recommend them to do it the next couple of days, again, because it's a full moon, and as you can see on the screen, if you're on Facebook right now, you could see Avilone Bailey's information. They just put it up there. So you can just give her a call. You can email her. Those are the best ways to get in touch. I'll also put all that information underneath the live video after the show. But again, this full moon is just phenomenal, and I actually can feel the energy of it, and it's very powerful, and maybe you can work with it.
That would be fantastic. Synchronicities, which we talked about, that I'm here, we're talking about it, you're talking about the optimal timing, energetically speaking, so this is perfect. And you know, as a nurse, I experience full moons.
Yeah.
That's, you know when it's a full moon, you don't want to be working the night shift. And the labor and delivery would just be hopping on a full moon because there'd be so many deliveries. So it definitely has an effect. Use it to your benefit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a friend who's a nurse, and she tells me all these stories. It's nuts in the ER. And there's another aspect that is going on for all your astrology buffs out there. Mercury conjunct Uranus. So this has been going on for quite some time. It conjunct Uranus, I would say, during Mercury retrograde. Now Mercury's direct, so now it's hitting it. But the good news is that it's actually making a trine to Saturn. So with this full moon, with this Pluto trine to Sun, Mercury conjunct Uranus, trine Saturn. So whatever you want to do right now, if you want to heal yourself emotionally, you want to regain your power, this aspect with Saturn, Uranus, Mercury is going to make it reality. You can turn all of this into reality, because what Saturn does, it creates structure. Uranus, Mercury, it's sudden. You might hear some sudden news, or something in your life might take place like quickly, but you might have these ideas that are moving so quickly. But if you work with Saturn, because Saturn's there supporting it, you can take these ideas and turn them into reality. So if you're looking to acquire some healing, look deep within yourself, regain your power, trust in yourself, confidence, etc., I'm telling, like, right now is the time to do it. I think that energetically, with the planets, with the full moon, having you here, I think all of it plays into it. And I think if someone wants to really move on from any hurts, or on themselves more, I think now is the time.
Yes, and you've mentioned being empowered several times, and every time you mentioned that, I kept hearing the word boundaries. And so we can lovingly set boundaries for ourselves that serve our good, because sometimes we don't have boundaries, or we're afraid to set boundaries. One lady that I worked with in her 60s, she couldn't say no to people, and so she was living other people's lives.
Was she a Libra?
I don't know. I'll have to ask her. I just had another session with her for something else.
Okay.
And so she would, and if she had to say no, she felt so bad, she would go and give them a gift because she couldn't do what they had asked her to do. So she was a people pleaser to the extreme. And so we worked on those energies as to her needing to be liked, or whatever the core issue was. And so she doesn't do that anymore. And so when you're talking about being empowered, it's about knowing what's right for you and setting the boundaries when they're called for. Being able to say, I'm so sorry, I can't do that for you. I hope you find someone who can do it. And being okay with it, not feeling guilty, but knowing that your path is over here, it's not over there where they wanted you to go. And it's okay to stand in your power, feel within yourself what is right for me, and be okay with it.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people who have challenges with that. It's actually quite, I think a lot of people have challenges with that, more than they want to admit to. I can admit that I've had trouble. I feel bad, if someone needs help or needs something, and I really can't do it. I'm really involved with something else, or I still want to go out. I feel bad. I don't want, but part of it, I think, is out of fear. You don't want the other person to not like you.
Exactly.
And where does that stem from?
Yes. And so a lot of times the core is self-esteem, and a lot of times, females in particular, our relationship with our father sets the tone for how we feel about ourselves. And so when a woman lacks self-esteem, when I go into the energy, it's a lot of times because of the relationship with the father. And that can be healed very quickly and lovingly, and have a beautiful effect for the woman to know that she's okay, she is lovable, and she can stand in her power in a loving way. It doesn't mean we have to turn into hardcore people. It's not that at all. It's coming from a place where I love myself enough to honor and respect myself. And I'm going to show you that I'm honoring and respecting myself, and that's what I expect from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're pretty much out of time. But it's been wonderful having you here to talk about all of this and to talk about the full moon, to talk about the energy of it. And if anyone wants to book a healing with Avalone Bailey, again, I'm going to have her information. You can see it right now. You can call her, email her. What's the best way to email you?
I have a new email, and I will have a website this month, so it'll be avalonbailey.com, but the email is info@avalonbailey.com.
Okay, great.
Info at.
Okay, and I'll have all of that, but the phone number is the same.
Yes, you can still use that
phone number. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so shoot her a text, call her. I'll have the information under the live video once we're done. If anybody wants a reading with me, I just launched my astrology Facebook account. So if you look for Astrology by Moonlight on Facebook, you'll find me. You can book a natal chart report. You can book a relationship report. I can do all of that for you guys. You can go on my Instagram, add me, Moonlight Astrology. And I look forward to it. If anybody out there needs some relationship advice, wants to know more about themselves. So thank you for joining me on Wednesday. Thank you for being a guest, Avalon.
Thank you so much. I have loved it.
Absolutely. Me too. And thanks. And I'll see everyone next Wednesday on Moonlight Astrology.